All right, and welcome horror fans back for another episode of the Northwest Nightmares Film Fest podcast. My name is Alan Cunningham, and I am the event organizer for Northwest Nightmares. I'm also the technology coordinator at Northwest Access Television right here in St. Albans. That's the organization that puts on the Northwest Nightmares Film Festival every year. I want to take a second just to thank our sponsors, Vermont Surrogacy Network and Twigs Restaurant in St. Albans. If your business would like to become a sponsor, you can reach out to us at info@northwestaccess.tv, or you can reach us by phone at 802-782-8676. There's still plenty of time for us to take your money. Yeah, so we're back for another third episode. I just want to give everybody a quick heads up. One of the things that was brought to my attention, and we should definitely keep people and let them know what's going on. We are still doing our premiere on October 25th at the Weldon Theater and the one on the 28th at the Sunset Drive-In. COVID guidelines. Seems like everything's kind of ramping up right now, and it makes me a little scared and nervous. But I just want to let you know that we are going to adhere to the COVID policies and procedures for each of those venues. So if you have any questions, you can go to the Weldon website. They are updating their COVID policy almost on a daily basis with things changing. So fingers crossed, everything's going to be in the free and clear come the end of October. So folks, this week, my guest, I'm very excited about this one. We have the former event organizer for Northwest Nightmares, and he's also a former participant in Northwest Nightmares. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Zack Sheffler. Zack, how's it going?
Hey, Alan, it's going well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
I am super psyched to be here.
Nice. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your background, what kind of got you into Northwest Nightmares and things of that nature?
I attended, I think it was the 2014 Northwest Nightmares, hosted by Renee Leroc-Rayum and her husband. At the time, I went as a participant, and it was one of the coolest things that I experienced in St. Albans at the time. I had just moved into the city, and being a movie fan, it was awesome to see that right next door, right down the street. After that, working here at Northwest Access TV, I took over the organizing for the event, and that gave me a whole new perspective on the process. Before that, I had submitted a film, and that was also amazing. One of my fondest memories of doing any sort of filmmaking.
Very, very cool. What was hosting your first festival like?
It's a lot to put together. There are a lot of moving pieces. Everybody's great, though, and that makes all of it worth it. I've always enjoyed building things to see and experience other folks participating and enjoying those same things. So the film festival was kind of a natural extension of that, on top of being a horror film fan. I've always been a horror film fan. And so it was a really great opportunity, and I was inspired by, the ideas that Renee had come up with, as well as Chris Hoyt, who was the creator of the film festival. They all had amazing ideas. So to get the chance to organize something like that, put my own spin on things, it was great. Organizing it was a lot, and I'm happy that each and every time people came through, and it was pulled off just perfectly.
That's awesome. Is there anything that you wish you could have done?
I would say that one of the things that's happening this year, a screening at a different theater, that was always what I feel everybody, Chris, Renee, and myself, were always working towards. We have the film festival has been connected to Franklin County and St. Albans specifically, but it got to a point where we were screening films from all over the state. And so seeing that, the natural next step is I would love for the folks who are submitting their films to see all of these, see their own movie at their own local theater. And so, with the Sunset Drive-In, that's what I feel I was always, or wish I would have gotten a chance to do. But seeing that happen now, it's just really exciting. And it's really cool to see.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see.
We were really hoping to get the Sunset Drive-In last year, but it just didn't work out. And watching them stay open through November and December, and I think they close in like early January for a few months, it's kind of a no-brainer. And especially in the climate we're in right now, we have to get there. So Paul kind of took the reins and really like knocked on the door of Pete, who owns the drive-in, and he's over the moon about it now. So we're really thankful and grateful and lucky to have this second venue. And for me, on a personal level, I grew up down the street from the Sunset Drive-In, so it was a weekend ritual of get your pajamas on, grab a pillow. You can there's 4 movies going on at a time. So if my parents wanted to go see one movie, I'd bring a little headset and tune my AM radio and look out the back window and watch the other movie.
That's awesome.
And it was just it's still one of the best film viewing experiences you can have. And sadly, it's like it's the one most on the brink of extinction right now, if it's not already just about completely gone. And then if you look at movie theaters nowadays, anyways, it's such a struggle, and it's not disheartening. It's sad because, man, that was my safe space when I was a kid, was the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's why festivals like this are so important, to reconnect people to their local independent theaters. And the Weldon and the Sunset are doing it, keeping something alive that's really important. Without folks like that, it would be harder to do this. And I always heard organizing the film festival, the biggest thing everybody felt they were most grateful for, and what was more important to them, more than the competition, more than the prizes. I always heard people saying, seeing it on the big screen with everybody watching, everybody's attention paid to the this unbelievably large screen. You can't get it at home. Everybody being there together and reacting to these movies, all together in the same place. It's unbeatable. You can't beat that. Yeah. So yeah, I'll always be going to movie theaters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I can't. There's an energy in the room when that happens. You just it's when you get that many like-minded folk together. And the thing I've found just from being a judge of it a couple of years ago and doing the online only version last year is the repeat submitters, people like Brent Campbell and Joe Wills and Mason Mashtare, who Mason has gone from making little student films. He's going off into Sweden for 2 weeks to be the production assistant. So it gives people that kind of that hook of, oh, this is definitely what I want to do. Zach, let's talk horror movies.
Right on.
What's your favorite, what's your go-to genre, niche? Do you like, bloodcore? Are you a black and white? What's your...
I'm going to ask you off air what bloodcore is, because I don't know what that is. I have always really enjoyed psychological horror movies, and also body horror films. Psychological horror. I remember watching Jacob's Ladder at a time where I hadn't seen anything like it before. That led me to watch a lot of 80s movies like The Thing, of course, and so many. Also, other movies like Rosemary's Baby, and other films, particularly from the 70s. I think I watched more of those. That is what introduced me to horror movies. Everybody gets into horror. Being horror fans, everybody gets into horror at a different place or a different decade. 80s slasher films. I mean, for me it was 70s, horror dramas, or these suspenseful psychological horror experiences. So I love them. Most recently, I watched, or I guess several years now, it's been a while, something that really rekindled my love of this particular genre and really told me, like, this is the kind of horror movie you like, was a movie called Hereditary.
Oh.
And I had a visceral, emotional, and physical reaction watching that movie that I had not felt watching anything else before. Went to see it at the Roxy in Burlington, and that movie kind of changed my outlook on horror films past that point. It's been very few movies that I feel compare to that, and it has really just kept me seeking out similar films. Recently Saint Maud came out. That's an amazing movie. The Dark and the Wicked is a most recent movie. I think it was a 2019 film that came out that I can't say enough good things about. And psychological horror for me, it's why I enjoy it is because it's more than just a horror movie. It's usually has a lingering question and something that it really leaves you with to think about at the end of the movie that forces you to reflect on your own life or the state of society, or a particular event, or a state of being, or a time in one's life. That's why I like those movies so much, psychological horror films, because they really ask you to engage with it in more of a, in more than just reacting to the stimuli that's on screen.
Yeah, the jump scares and it goes for the long con almost. I want you to think about this after this movie's gone.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be the scares, which are there. Which, but
yeah, it's very purposeful and deliberate, and I think a lot of the filmmakers they have things that they want to say through these films, that they use this particular horror movie language to convey those ideas. I know Ari Aster, who directed movies like Hereditary and Midsummer and a few others.
Is he directing the new movie that's coming out, Lamb? Have you seen the trailer for that?
I don't believe so, but I actually don't know what his more recent projects are. I know he was talking with Zachary Quinto. They both love Hellraiser a lot.
That's right.
And
they're talking about doing a remake?
And they've really wanted to, revisit that. So we'll see where Ari goes, next, but undercurrent of all his films, even some of his earlier short film work, I think Something's Wrong with the Johnsons or Meet the Johnsons, is this paradox of family, how family can be the most beautiful thing, but it can also disguise or really obscure a lot of, awful things or things that affect us as human beings. So he's always analyzing that and talking about that through his films. I think that's fascinating. And then body horror, I absolutely love David Cronenberg. I'll watch any David Cronenberg movie multiple times over. It leads into great, practical effects or makeup that is, an entire realm of itself of mastery and artistry. But I love all those films. So yeah, if you had to ask me, two genres, psychological horror and body horror.
Those are
two great genres. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Can't get enough of them.
Yep. I started out just Nightmare on Elm Street. I was born in '83. I was the youngest of three kids.
Yeah.
So my oldest sister, when I was 7, I think she was 16 or 17.
Yeah.
She had no problem with renting this movie or that movie, and she was the encyclopedia of movies. So every Friday night we'd go to the movie store with her, and she had already seen all of these. But going to the movie store and picking out and with horror movies, how many people have stumbled upon movies that have changed their life simply by the cover art because they go, oh, that looks neat.
Yeah.
It's So I grew up. I was born and raised on the slashers. I love them. I've branched off into everything since. And it's always fun to find out what steered people into the horror genre, because there's so many different avenues they can go in. It can be, I really like the cinematography in the movie Halloween. It was really well. It's John Carpenter. He did a fantastic job with that. Maybe it's the practical effects. You like seeing heads blow up and stuff like.
Oh man,
yeah. So
who doesn't?
Yeah. So it's such a beautiful genre, and people give it a bad rap because it's death and horror.
It's provocative. Like it's provocative in so many ways.
Yes, but and it's just it wants to it's trying to tell you something. It's just kind of wrapped in this scary facade.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, yeah, good call with a Midsummer. That's or Hereditary as well. 'Cause
Hereditary.
That's just
It's your mileage may vary. You don't have to watch it. It's not required viewing. It's divisive, but
just see how far you can get into it.
yeah.
And then converse with somebody.
Yeah.
About
Have a movie group. We have book clubs.
Yeah.
Movie clubs with friends and family. People on the internet, of course. I think I love it when I love talking about movies. In fact, this podcast, if we keep going down this rabbit hole, that's what we're going to turn this into.
Yeah.
But talk to your friends about the movies you watch. Analyze and critique the media that you consume in all aspects and all areas, because it's really important, and it's an art form, and that's what art forms give you space to do.
So you've been a participant and a host for the event.
Yeah.
What did you see as a participant that you didn't realize as the organizer, and vice versa?
Sure. That's a good question. It's a hard one because being an organizer and being a filmmaker, they both do different things, and they're expressions of a similar thing in different ways. I'll say that the anxiety and collaboration and coordination that was required to put together the film festival, that was rewarding because, and for me personally, and this is just something that I just innately enjoy, is just seeing other people enjoy things, having a good time. So for me, packing a house, full of folks, being there for people to, help them through this journey of expressing themselves. The end result of that was great. However, I don't think I could have done that without having participated first in some fashion, because, knowing about, the challenges, there's so many challenges. And being a filmmaker, those challenges, can be frustrating and give you that same anxiety, the due dates, getting the cast together, film dates, writing, editing, like they all present, they really challenge you as a creator to fully realize your vision, or at least try to work towards that. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, being a creator, being the filmmaker, seeing your movie up on screen. The one movie I had never seen really a homemade movie on a cinema screen before.
Yeah.
So to see it larger than life, that big, and also just to be in a crowd and they're reacting to these moments that you thought of or like anticipated. There's nothing can beat that. It was really cool. Different challenges, different levels of anxiety or different types of stress, but both of them are worth it. I hate to choose, but that creative effort really puts it over the top.
Yeah.
Really puts it over the top, and honestly, while getting your movies into a theater, if you're listening to this and you have an indie theater, in your town or in your city, there are numerous, ones here in Vermont, but elsewhere there certainly are others. Even if you own a chain or if your local theater is a chain or a franchise, talk to people, get managers' email addresses, call them, and ask them about this, because just the state of theaters now and into the future, most likely, those local connections are going to make all the difference. So if you're a filmmaker and you have made a film or movie, even if you're big on YouTube or something else, challenge your local theaters to do this and lead that charge and organize your own film festival. It's
that's the thing. Nobody realizes that you don't need a license to start a film festival.
Yeah.
Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And the website Film Freeway really just makes it so easy for anybody to set it up. I can't say enough good things about that website. I think you and I had talked before, and that website kind of does 95% of the work. It's still a lot of work, but The handling of the mechanical, the back of the house kind of stuff, getting things in, getting tickets out. It's so nice to have just a nice service like that for it.
Yeah. Any way you can. Start a film festival.
Yep.
Period.
Get your stuff on the screen. And I think that's kind of been my takeaway with my last interview with Mason and with you, is how often are you going to get to see yourself, 25 feet tall on a screen? You can't get that even with an 80-inch television at home. It's not the same.
And you know what? Another thing you really can't get, movies are such a large industry, and where the kinds of movies that you end up seeing at your local theater are, often dictated not by even what your neighbors or your town likes. It's a huge industry, and for good reasons and bad. You'll see a certain type of movie or film in your theater. Local movies, while you don't have the budget of Disney or Warner Brothers, making your own films and getting other people to participate in, that's the currency that really is it's unmatched anywhere else. Bringing together people, your friends, your family, creating movies, watching movies together. It's just a really fantastic experience that brings people closer together. And like this festival and others like it, it's just, that's the thing above everything else that is so incredible to me, and to think about is that like everybody's coming together over everybody else's movies.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's so cool.
So, Zach, I got a final question here for you.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to any aspiring Northwest Nightmares participants?
That's an intensely good question. There are a lot of answers to that. There is a lot of advice. I'd say, number one, research. If you read horror novels, if you're a horror film fan, discover notable films in the genre you like. There are so many websites with resources on the craft of filmmaking. YouTube, put any question about filmmaking into YouTube, you'll get a lot of advice, and it's difficult to sort through it all. But and it can be daunting. Like there's a moment where, and I know making like my first film, I felt like there was too much advice. So I would say take as much advice as you can handle, but more importantly than anything, learn how to tell a good story. It does not matter how much money you put into your movie, how many people you have in your movie, how long it is, how complicated it is. Really dig into what makes a good story, and refer and think back to like stories you've heard that resonate with you personally. And that can be books, that can be movies, that can be short stories, poetry, even creepypasta on the on Reddit and message boards and all that stuff. Short YouTube films you've seen, short films, period. Those are all great resources for inspiration. And, inspiration is key. It's always good to be original. But the reality is that no one is truly 100% original, and everybody is borrowing from everybody. So find those inspirational sources, find that guidance, or find that that advice you can find, and roll with it. And just and then number two, just do it. Especially if you have a good script or a good story, something that really means a lot to you, and that in the end is going to be what gets you through making a movie. But number two is definitely hone in on that script and hone in on that story. And number two, just do it. Just do it. Start it. if it's messy, if it's not perfect, I'm someone who struggles with instead of acting on things, seeing an array of choices and just feeling paralyzed. And me personally, it's always been a struggle in my life to get past that. At the end of the day, when it's done, I love it more simply because it's done. So yeah, just get into it. Grab a camera, grab another friend, write something or brainstorm something around what you got, not what you want, what you got, and just do it. And you'll find that by the end of that process, those limitations will have moved you into a space where you're forced to be creative and make tough decisions. But in the end, you're going to be, I guarantee you'll be amazed with what you come out with. If you just, number one, do your research, and two, just do it.
Just do it. And if you have, one of the things I've seen is people just want to try to recreate a creepy shot from a movie that they really like.
Right.
So
yeah.
they will base their whole film around, this reveal shot or this jump scare. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like that's the bread and butter. That's the heart and soul of this fest.
Yeah. Homage is great. Yes. I love homage.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
100%.
Yeah. That's just kind of it. Doing that, taking a technique like that is it works because it worked on you, and B, it's a nice nod to where your influences come from. And if somebody wants to dive a little more, okay, well, he's using a lot of Carpenter or Wes Craven techniques. I always see this kind of shot in this movie, and yeah, there's just so many different avenues you can go with making your own film. And if you want to be the director and the writer and do everything, if you just want to be the sound guy, that's it. And there's a whole community of people out there who are always looking for help, always looking for creative talent in any respect. That's why I started up a Discord server for Northwest Nightmares.
Right on.
You can find the link right on the website, nwnightmares.com. Yeah, it's a little bare bones right now, but I want to load it with resources and tips and tricks, and because as there's kind of already this little, cabal of people that are, year in and year out are going to submit something, and whether it's great, whether it's terrible, they do it every year and they have a blast. I want to open that community up and get those lines of communication going. One of the really neat things that I saw this year was Mason Mashter. He's been several film festivals here, and he was a guest on just last week. He just did a film called Contact High, a short film, and it had some special effects in it, and I thought I recognized him, and I noticed in the credits it was Joseph Wills, and I said, I know Joseph, he's done films for Northwest Nightmares.
Yep.
It's so to see these guys collaborate on a project outside of Northwest Nightmares when they probably, I don't think they went to school together, so it's kind of just a community connection of creators. And that's really what I know you were always shooting for, and what I am striving to keep going is just when you have the support of other like-minded people, it kind of gives you that confidence that you might not have otherwise.
Yeah, and just to speak to that, maybe I'll round it out to like number 3, top 3. Definitely reach out to, friends and family, whoever you can. There's been a lot of discussion recently about, film director. I think before the show we were talking about, there's a Stanley Kubrick reference, and it's really easy, especially with film directors, to attribute an entire film to the genius and efforts of one person. Usually they're men, and usually they're white, and the reality is that it takes an immense amount of people to make a film possible and make these nightmares a reality, and to delight so many people. And so if you're not comfortable in front of the camera, if you feel like you need an extra hand, the collective efforts of multiple people, while it is an extra layer of organizing, film dates, what works for you, what works for me, it's really important, and you'll learn a lot more than doing anything yourself. In a lot of ways, you'll learn a lot by working with other people. Thinking of, the efforts of folks like, you mentioned Mason, but a number of other people who have been doing films from year to year to year, and seeing their teams grow and seeing their teams change, and how that affects the film, how it affects the movie, and the types of films they're making. That iteration and that cooperation is so key. And, thinking back to point 2, just do it. Yeah, just do it. So you can do it over and over again, get better and better and better. It's an iterative process. So all those things, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's really important too. Connecting with other folks about this. Yep. It's also, in some ways, it's a lot more fun to do it with other people. Yeah. And you can have a pizza party at the end.
Yes, pizza parties all around. Yes.
That last day of filmmaking.
Yep. And, and the point I wanted to go back to, I'll probably edit this, was the fact that if you are not comfortable making your own movie, you don't have the time, you're just apprehensive for whatever reason, give me a call and I can talk you out of all of those. But beyond that, if for whatever reason you haven't made anything, don't want to get anything in, just come to the festival. If you like horror movies at all, it's a bit surreal to see somebody in your neighborhood that is a extra in a horror movie that you're watching on the big screen, and when you see somebody filmed their shot of this person walking a dog and they walked right past your house and you're like, oh my god, my house is in that film now. That's kind of the beauty of the local stuff. So if people in Franklin County and people in Chittenden County as well, and south and beyond of that, please take the opportunity to go to the Sunset Drive-In. I don't think they're going to turn away anybody at all. We're going to have that night pretty much to ourselves. Tickets are available at the Sunset Drive-In box office or on their website for that. He has told us that if he sells enough tickets where he fills up a screen, he's just going to put it on a second screen that same night. Well, Zach, thank you so much.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. This was really cool.
Yeah. So I'm Alan Cunningham. I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Northwest Nightmares Film Fest podcast. Be sure to check out our website for all of the up-to-date information, including pricing, COVID policies, and any other podcast episodes that will be coming up, any webinars that are coming up to help with creative resources, practical effects. If you have questions on lighting or framing or composition, we can help you out with that here at Northwest Access TV. That's kind of that's our bread and butter. We love teaching. So if you have any questions, head on over to 616 Franklin Park West. Stop over and say hi. And that's going to do it. Zach, thank you once again.
Catch you later. Have fun.
Bye.